Three things he saw one after the other at the highest level. Number one, Sidrat al-Muntaha. Number two, Bayt al-Ma'mur. Number three, Jibreel. This is the reference in the Quran, لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. He saw of his major signs. And it is said that the Prophet ﷺ only saw Jibreel in his original form twice. Then Ibn Mas'ud said the Prophet ﷺ was given three things. Number one, the 5 salah. We're going to come to that. Number two, خواتيم سورة البقرة. The ending of Surah Al-Baqarah. And number three, Allah promised him that whoever worshipped him from his ummah without doing shirk, that he will be forgiven and caused to enter Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, I have been given them from underneath the throne of the treasure of Allah. And we know that whoever recites these 2 verses, Allah will protect him. In another hadith he said, whoever recites these 2 verses on a nightly basis, يعني كفتاه, they're going to be enough for him. He doesn't need anything else. Which was
يا أحمد يا مؤيد من الفضل الصمد حبيبي يا محمد يا صادق البلوان يا أحمد يا مؤيد من الفضل الصمد يا صادق المقال يا ذا المقام العلي يا صادق المقال يا ذا المقام العلي يا من أباه ربي بطيب الأفعال يا من سريت ليلى وصاحب جبريل 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 في المسجد الأقصى في تلك الليلة في تلك الليلة يا محمد بجمع المرسلين كنت فيهم إماما وكانوا مقتدين يا محمد بجمع المرسلين كنت فيهم إماما وكانوا مقتدين صليت يا محمد بجمع المرسلين كنت فيهم إماما وكانوا مقتدين صليت يا محمد بجمع المرسلين كنت فيهم إماما وكانوا مقتدين ما بعد الصلاة تلك للسماوات 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 قرآن في رب العالمين تمسرت ليلى وصاحب جبريل تمسرت ليلى وصاحب جبريل يا من سرت ليلى وصاحب جبريل تمسرت ليلى وصاحب جبريل في المسجد الأقصى في تلك الليلة في تلك الليلة يا محمد يا صادق البلوان يا أحمد يا مؤيد من الفضل الصمد حبيبي يا محمد يا صادق البلوان يا أحمد يا مؤيد من الفضل الصمد يا صادق المقال يا ذا المقام العلي يا صادق المقال يا ذا المقام العلي يا من حباه ربي بطيب الأفعال يا من سريت ليلى.
then that the Prophet ﷺ went to the gist of Al-Isra, and that is the divine appointment. In Sahih Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ says, then I was caused to ascend forth in the singular, not Jibreel anymore. And I rose to a level where I could hear the pen writing, as the Prophet
وسرور وفوق سدرتي وأنس وحضور لقدس حضرتي بمجد وسرور وفوق سدرتي وأنس وحضور لقدس حضرتي بمجد وسرور وفوق سدرتي
and rise the Buraq back to Medina. And there are some narrations that are not fully authentic, but there's no problem in them to affirm them as well, that the Prophet ﷺ passed by 3 caravans of the Quraysh that he recognized. When he came back to Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ went back to sleep, he said, and he woke up in the Haram. And this clearly shows therefore that the actual Isra took place from the Haram itself to Baytul Maqdis and then back to the Haram. So the Prophet ﷺ said, when I woke up the next morning, I felt an anxiety about how am I going to tell the people of what happened to me, and what will they say, and they are going to reject me. And as I was sitting anxious and nervous and worried, he's sitting in front of the Kaaba, the enemy of Allah, Abu Jahl, passed by me and he saw me in that state. And so Abu Jahl said to him in a sarcastic manner, what is the matter with you? Why? Has anything happened? The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, something happened. So Abu Jahl said, what? So the Prophet ﷺ said, yesterday, last night, I was taken from here to Jerusalem. So Abu Jahl was shocked and he said, and you are now here amongst us? You're now waking up amongst us? And so the Prophet himself said, he didn't know whether to make fun of me then or to wait so that I would not retract when he called the other people. The Prophet said, yes, I'm waking up amongst you here. So Abu Jahl said, if I call your people, meaning the Quraysh, will you tell them what you have just told me? And so the Prophet said, yes, I will. And so Abu Jahl began screaming out to the people, Hayya ma'shara bani Ka'b ibn Lu'ay, which is the great-grandfather of the Quraysh. Come forth, we have an announcement to make. And so the people came slowly from the places of Mecca. And so Abu Jahl says, tell them what you promised you would tell them. And so the Prophet said, last night I went to Bayt al-Maqdis and I went to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa, the Bayt al-Maqdis. So the people began reacting in different ways. Some of them began musaffiq, just like clapping like in what is going on here. Others put their hands on their heads not knowing what to do. And others began snickering and laughing until one of them said, and he had been there to Bayt al-Maqdis, can you describe it for us? Makkah. And so Abu Jahl says, tell them what you promised you would tell them. And so the Prophet said, last night I went to Bayt al-Maqdis and I went to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa, the Bayt al-Maqdis. So the people began reacting in different ways. Some of them began musaffiq, just like clapping like in what is going on here. Others put their hands on their heads not knowing what to do. And others began snickering and laughing until one of them said, and he had been there to Bayt al-Maqdis, can you describe it for us? Because everybody knew that the Prophet had never been to Bayt al-Maqdis, right? And so the Prophet said, I began describing the Bayt al-Maqdis until they began to ask me about specifics that I wasn't able to recall. I got confused and I became so worried and anxious that I wasn't able to answer, that I had never been so worried before. And he said, as I was waiting for what to respond, I saw in the distance Baytul Maqdis rising up in front of me, until I saw it descending beyond the house of Aqil ibn Abi Talib. And this is the house that he grew up in, because Abu Talib had died and Aqil is now living in it, right? The house that he grew up in, not the house he's currently living in, that's Khadija's house. And no question they asked of me except that I saw the Baytul Maqdis, right, basically being shown to me, and I looked at them and I answered every question that they had, until finally one of them said, as for the descriptions of Baytul Maqdis, then of Jerusalem, then he is accurate. The Prophet ﷺ said, and Ibn Hisham mentions this, I will give you some signs as well. And he mentioned the 3 caravans. He mentioned the first caravan is of so-and-so, and they will be returning soon because they were the closest to the city. The second caravan is so-and-so, and they had lost a camel, and you can ask them about that camel, they were searching for it. The third caravan is such and such, and they had this urn of water that I drank from. Abu Jahl said, if you saw them at such and such a place, the caravan should be coming right now, because it was very close to Mecca. And while they're discussing, the news arrives that the caravan is entering Mecca. And so Abu Jahl goes and sees, and it is exactly as the Prophet described, and he comes back and saying, this is clear sorcery. And of course it was at this time when one of the Quraysh came running to Abu Bakr and said, do you know what your companion has just said? Said what? He said, your companion claims to have gone all the way to Jerusalem, which is a month's journey, and back, which is another month's journey, and he did all of this in one night. Abu Bakr said, if he said that, then it must be true. So the man said to him, do you believe him in such a claim? And so Abu Bakr said, I believe him in something that is even more amazing than this. He claims that the revelation from above the 7 heavens comes to him instantaneously. Which is more amazing? Just to go to Jerusalem and come back, or that Allah is communicating with him instantaneously? And so because of this, Abu Bakr was called As-Siddiq. If you think about it, in this journey of Isra wal Miraj, the Prophet physically saw all of the pillars of Iman. He saw the hijab of Allah and he spoke directly with Allah. He saw numerous angels and he saw the angel Jibreel in the original form. He met all of the prophets and he spoke to them. And this is the prophets in the book. books, right? And he spoke to them about the day of judgment, and he spoke to them about the signs of the day of judgment, and he saw heaven and hell, which are going to take place after the day of judgment, and he even saw the reality of Qadr. How? When the Prophet ﷺ went up and he saw Adam alayhi salam, he actually saw Adam surrounded by many people beyond what he could count. And on the right side of Adam was one group, on the left side another group. And when he saw Adam alayhi salam, saw the people on his right, he was happy. And when he saw the people on the left, he began to cry. So he asked Jibreel about this, and Jibreel said, these are all of the children of Adam. The Ashabul Yameen are the people of Jannah. The Ashabul Shimal are the people of Jahannam. So when he looks at the people of Jannah, he's happy. And when he looks at the people of Jahannam, he is saddened by seeing Adam with the right and the left, and by one more thing, the pen, the writing of the pen, hearing the pen. The Iman of the Prophet ﷺ, after literally seeing with his own eyes all of these pillars of Iman, you understand that this was a personal gift to the Prophet ﷺ.